Here. Here.
Here. Thank you. So we're going to ask our city manager to introduce the items on the work session.
Yes, Commissioner, thank you for allowing us to have this work session tonight. Today, we have a very important matter to discuss and receive an update on. And with us today is Health Commissioner Charlie Patterson, and then members of People for Safe Water, Marilyn Welker and Larry Ricketts. We appreciate them coming again to talk about what is a critically important matter for our community, for the future of our community, and that relates to the Tremont barrel fill. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to the group and ask for them to provide us kind of a status update of where we are.
I guess I'll go first. It's been, oh gosh, it was October of 2018 was when we had our last public meeting with US EPA, when Jim Sarek was here. And it's actually been 4 years since City of Springfield, German Township, the Health Department, everybody agreed to take Plan 9A. If you remember, it was basically a take it or leave it type of situation, and everybody finally agreed, okay, this is the best we're going to get, so we're going to move forward with this. At that time, Jim Sarek was our project manager. He was, in August of 2017, he was here, and he explained the next steps and the process. And the very first step was to get the consent decree. That is where they work with the principal responsible parties and developing, exactly how they're going to do this, how they're forward. That was supposed to be the first step. Jim told us at that time that process usually takes 6 months. Sometimes it's a little longer. To get the CD, the consent, then it moves on. Now we're 4 years away from that, and we're no further along. When he was here in 2018, he said, right, I actually watched the tape last night of the meeting that we had in 2018 to refresh my memory, and it was really enlightening because some of the things that he brought up, there were questions that were asked by Representative Kaler and from David regarding the time frame and what could be done, to move the thing along. And he assured us that at that time that there were mechanisms in place that if things didn't move along, if there was something that was holding it up, there are processes that the Department of Justice can go through to force people to the table and do whatever. Now, last night I had a rather lengthy conversation. I got an update last night from Jenny Polster, who replaced Jim as the project manager. She couldn't tell me anything. She's not allowed to tell me anything. She says she can't. I asked, what is the holdup? She says, well, they're still in negotiations. I said, well, this is the same story we've been getting for over 3 years. They're still in negotiation. And since they're proprietary types of conversations, she says that they're not allowed to disclose to us what exact holdup is. I said, is it a company? Is it one particular company? Couldn't tell me. Is it one particular issue? Couldn't tell me. So I spent a good part of the evening going back through the history of this whole thing. And what I did was our website has a great history from the start of this, from when the barrels were initially buried up to our last meeting. I didn't print it all out for you because it's about 10 pages long. But if you look at the paper that I passed out to you, and if you go, I highlighted a couple of things. And if you look down under October 2002, you'll see that I highlighted that Waste Management was invited to be a member of the companies that were all involved in this, and they declined to do that. Those companies took Waste Management to court, but it held things up for almost 6 years. that was the first instance where we had Waste Management holding something up. And if you look at the second page, it shows that the court in October 2008, Waste Management was ordered by the court to become a part of the process, and that they were in fact responsible for 55% of the overall cost of the cleanup at the barrel fill. Shortly after that, I say shortly, it was almost a year, the US EPA notified the Ohio EPA that they supported Plan 4A. And all of us at that time, county, the health department, everybody was in agreement. 4A was the plan that we wanted to go with. That was a total cleanup of the site. 2 years later, Waste Management, and in between that time, there were public comment periods and things that went on. 2 years later, Waste Management pops up again, and they come up with an alternative to 4A. And we're like, everybody in the county and Ohio EPA, everybody's like, why? Wait a minute, we've already agreed to 4A. What's this new thing then? Well, the new plan that they were coming up with was 9A, and that was where they were going to take everything out, put the liner down, haul away the liquids. Most of you know the history of it, but.
And that was at the last second
That
that
was
they
at the,
did that.
yes.
Yeah.
And in fact, Ohio, or the US EPA extended
Right.
the, you probably remember, they extended the comment period. So again, there's the one company that stands out as Waste Management. And then lo and behold, US EPA changes their mind and says, well, we're going to go with Waste Management's plan. And then we spent years arguing, going back and forth over that. But I think it kind of gives us an idea of what might be holding this up, or who might be holding this up. I asked that question. Can't tell me. They can't tell me who or what it is. But I think that there's a lot of fingerprints on here where Waste Management just doesn't want to do this. And I have my reasons for thinking why they don't want to do this. They're responsible for waste sites all over the country. There are many Superfund sites that Waste Management is responsible for. I believe that they think that, boy, if we do this, we start doing this one in Clark County, then everybody's going to come to us and say, we want you to do our site now too. That's my own personal opinion. That is nothing that I got from US EPA. That's just my gut feeling on this. And if you look at the history of who has been the one party responsible for holding things up, since this started, when People for Safe Water was first founded, almost all of those people are gone. That's how long this has taken. I mean, and I don't mean they're retired. I mean, they've passed away. This has gone on that long. And there has only been one constant through this whole process. Our public officials have changed. We're on our 7th presidential administration, which means at least our 7th EPA administration that we've been working with on this. So those things have all constantly changed over the years. The one thing that has stayed the same is Waste Management blocking this. And I think that, we've felt this way for a number of years, and our group has. And quite frankly, we're tired of playing nice and not saying what needs to be said.
A couple of observations. I want to make sure that I understand what you've presented to us, and thank you for reviewing that. 2018, 3 years ago, we were told by the US EPA, take it or leave it.
It was actually 4 years ago.
4 years ago. 4 years ago, take it or leave it. And we didn't have much time to consider that offer, as I recall. But 4 years ago, and to date, we do not have a solution. Is that correct?
We don't even have the first step. I mean, I take that back. They did change, the first step was to change the record of decision, and it took a year to do that. That got us to 2018. But in 2018, that's when the Justice Department actually started the negotiation.
So between the United States EPA and now the United States Department of Justice, 4 years has lapsed and there is no solution today. Our water is as threatened, if not more so, than it was 4 years ago.
Yes.
And what really angers me about this is the Justice Department and the EPA have had apparently all kinds of times for shenanigans in and around the Washington Beltway, addressing any number of concerns that came up politically within the Washington circles, and they don't have time for our water?
Right.
This is absurd. That we can take time to deal with political issues and put the water at the bottom of the list. All you got to do is look west. You guys know, look west at what's happening out there between the temperature and the lack of rain and the fires, how critical water is, and we can't get the United States government to get off dead center to address our need for pure water? You gotta be kidding me. This is, from my perspective, should be a prime mandate of service to the people. There aren't many things more critical, frankly, than water. And the government is not doing their job. For God's sake. This is absurd. I understand your frustration and anger. I'm feeling it right now.
Yeah.
This is just crazy that water that serves not only Springfield, Clark County, but a good share of Southwest Ohio, good water, pure water, is being threatened, and we can't get the United States government to do a thing about it. Not a thing. Is that what I hear you say? I want to make sure I've captured it correctly.
Larry received an email from Jenny Polster after their conversation, and I think that letter is, this to me is like, okay, the floodgates are open and we've got to figure out some way to make a lot of noise. Just read it, please, Larry.
Well, here's the gist. I'll read it verbatim. It was nice to catch up with you this evening. Regarding a status update, I have no information I can provide beyond negotiations are ongoing. And this is what jumps out at me. And if a CD is lodged for the Tremont barrel fill site, I will contact you in Maryland and the rest of the citizens group and let you know the comment period is open.
If.
When it's if.
If.
And I said,
That's
and
right.
that jumped out at me. I
That's
said,
right. That's
if,
Which says that the negotiations have stalled. And I mean, that's very telling.
Oh, man.
And I mean, to my understanding, DOJ and EPA, I don't know what kind of enforcement authority they have other than taking whoever is stalling to court.
Well, they seem to have time to do that, as I said, plenty of times in the area of Washington, D.C. right now. I don't understand why they can't seem to get their act together to do it in our case.
So I'd just like to add to the record that's been provided here. Several of the people in this room were in attendance with Jenny Polster at the end of 2019 when she came back to town to update us. And at that time, she let us know that the actual communications were being sent out to the potentially responsible parties, basically with an offer. And that offer is usually about a 3-month offer. And, but they said reasonably, they said, it's 3 months, but sometimes it drags out. And so usually we see these things resolved in about 6 months. So that would have put us in the time frame of May to June of 2020. Now, granted, there was another little thing that happened along the way, but even if you're working from home, you can still do consent degree work. So in the meantime, then, in April of 2020, Maryland reached out to Ms. Polster for an update. And the emails we got back was, well, I have a call with our attorneys and DOJ attorneys this afternoon. I will ask them if I can give you an update or answer any of your questions. Apparently, the answer after quick math, 15 months later is no. So a process that we were told, and we were given a tentative timeline that honestly by September, October of this year, there should have been shovels in the ground, not to fix it, but to begin the study on if the plan was actually going to work. And we don't even have a consent decree, apparently even close. And so, you know, Commissioner, I share your frustration. I've been in my position 21 years now, and in my first 2 weeks of coming on the job, people came to me and said, by the way, you need to know there's an issue that's already happened here that you need to fix, and it's taken this long, and we're getting nothing. So
It seems to me that what we've got here is a clear case of government taking care of government, not taking care of the people. And this is, water is so basic to life. Without good water, we're not going to have a community. We won't need to worry about people living, working, or playing here because nobody will want to be here if we don't have water. Good water, safe water. And it just boggles my mind that 4 years after a commitment was made by the United States government, we're nowhere. We still don't have a solution. Not one shovel full of dirt has been turned at that site. And our water is more threatened today than ever before. What can we do to help? What can we as a commission, what can the good people of Springfield, Clark County, this area, what can they do to help you and all of us move this forward? What would you suggest?
Well, my first suggestion would be a couple of us, and how long has that been now? 5 years ago, maybe?
She went to Chicago.
Went to Chicago. And apparently that didn't fully work but it did actually, we sat there with the attorneys, with the Region 5 administrator, with whoever Joan Tanaka was at the time, whatever her administrative position was. And we did get their attention, and we did have multiple meetings and move some progress. We obviously in the last 2 years have made no progress at all. And so maybe it's time, you know, it's not me, it's heavy hitters like Representative Kaler, it's heavy hitters coming in like the Chamber of Commerce and the state Senate, and potentially even a U.S. representative or senator to bring those people in and go to Chicago and say, we're here, we need some answers.
I have two suggestions. There's two types of squeaky wheels. There's a kind of squeaky wheel that you have on your shopping cart when you're going down the aisle and it bothers you. And then there's the kind of squeaky wheel that maybe you hear it in your car and you know that there's something serious. The US EPA, Waste Management, they look at groups like ours as the squeaky wheels on a shopping cart. We're an annoyance, but we don't pull any weight. I think that it's time that we go beyond the local level, beyond the state level. And this is a situation where we need our United States senators and our congressmen to be the squeaky wheel. And I'm not talking about making a phone call and getting an answer and saying, okay, here's your answer. I'm talking about regular phone calls. I'm talking about being a pain in the side to them and getting them to, if nothing else, acknowledge to the community what the problem is and what the holdup is. And my second suggestion is, because of who I think the holdup is I think it's time to put pressure on Waste Management. I honestly believe that is what is stopping progress on this. That is the company. I mean, we're not dealing with the same people that we were dealing with when this started at Waste Management. They're like everything else. There's turnover, and so they can always say, well, that wasn't us. That was, But if you're going to do business in this community and you're going to be a good community partner, you have an obligation to the community when there's something like this to make sure that it's taken care of. And Waste Management does a lot of business in this county. And I think that if nothing else, that the city, maybe our state representative, our state senator, whatever, should contact those people and say, you need to come in and talk to us. And involve the community, not just talk to us in our private office, but talk to everybody. And you let us know if you're not the problem, then you need to tell us that you're not the problem and you're working towards this solution and to get this done. And if you don't want to do that and they don't want to come in here, then the only recourse we have is economic. Now, a city the size of Springfield and a county the size of Clark is not going to put a big dent in Waste Management's bottom line. But you'd be amazed sometimes how, when something like that starts, how it catches on in other places. As I say, there's a lot of other places that Waste Management is responsible for. And, we haven't done that. It's something we haven't tried in the past. And I think that we can write them all we want. They're not even going to answer us unless it's in a form of a form letter. But maybe if the city, state representatives, if they were to do that, maybe we get some movement out.
Just for the record, I've been around a little bit longer than Charles. And Charles remembers the day I asked him to write a letter to the President of the United States when he was in Springfield, Ohio. It was handed to Commissioner Chilton. Commissioner Chilton handed it to them. He referred to that letter in his speech for re-election. 2 months later, I confronted the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, over at the Security National Bank building, and Secret Service escorted me out. I mean, just don't want you to think that some of us have been sitting here on our hands, because Marilyn Welker knows better, okay?
There's no
But
way
just
I
so
would
you
ever
know,
infer
we have
that.
fought the fight. I've been in many, many meetings with Representative Hobson, and it was gonna be, everything seemed to be moving down the middle. But the bottom line is, we talked about litigation, and we were advised not to do that because it may disrupt what might be happening in our favor, which at this juncture isn't anything. I am so refreshed tonight to hear you, Commissioner, take the position I took. I think I yelled louder, did I? When we started. Because this has been a very ugly situation. This is a dangerous situation. I even made the overture, and I'm going to make it again tonight, of how we're going to deal with this ourselves. Because there comes a point in time when we're talking money, is what we're talking here. If they're not going to help us, then we need to get together and find out, and I have talked to our Director of Finance of how much it would take to remediate this and what we would have to charge the citizens. You said, how do we bring the citizens of Springfield in? And the county's in just as much danger as we are. Because if the wellhead goes down, it's going to shut all of it down and clear down into the Dayton area. So again, there's a lot of people in our bed here, but nobody wants to, we all want to, but nobody, it just gets, like you said, it gets shoved aside on some important person's desk and it never surfaces. And we're at how many years? 20? 20 years.
At least.
Yeah. So again, I am suggesting that in addition to whatever you're gonna do with the public people, as far as the important people, as you refer to them, which I agree, we need to do something locally to find out how much it will cost. Because I was never satisfied with 9A. I was madder than hell about it. I said, we got a deal. When they extended the time, and I know who they extended it for and who put the deal on the table. And if you don't think there's collusion going on, I think we're all very naive. But how do you get it fixed? I think if you look at some of the things that has happened at the state level, when Governor Kasich was there, as far as local government funds and things like that, they all want partnerships. And they all want you to take care of your own problems that you can take care of. I think, how much longer do we have to wait before we say, okay, this is what it costs, this is how much we have to put on our water and sewer bills, this is what it's gonna take. And it's not gonna bankrupt anybody, but we need to do that. We need to at least have a plan in place to do that. Didn't mean to steal your thunder tonight.
No, that's
But I
that's
just
fine.
wanna let you know,
So are there comments?
we
though?
need to do that.
Are there comments from the other commissioners? Commissioner Rue?
They can't give you information, these conversations.
They can't give us anything. They can't give us, yeah, they can't, they said as long as the negotiations are going on, they're proprietary conversations, and that they cannot share any of the information with us. Yeah, I knew you were going with that. Well, they do have a time, they do that. The word is ongoing. That's what they say.
Ongoing.
Yeah, they started 3 years ago and they're ongoing. So-
In light of this report, I'm wondering, as Commissioner O'Neill is suggesting, very frankly, what you have suggested, if we don't need to rethink our strategy, then invite some other people to join with us in a conversation and a planning session in terms of what steps we want to take moving forward on this issue, and to move forward together again. We've had a lot of luck working together. And this just seems to be yet one more issue where by working together, all of us, the major organizations, our representatives at the state level, at the federal level, county, we can bring those people together. I think we need to explore those perhaps at the staff level, Brian, as a beginning point, and then bring the various organizations together, re-examine our strategy, see if there are new and better ways that we can move this forward, because we sure aren't having the results that we want now.
Well,
And in spite of all the work that you and many others have contributed to this, we have no evidence that it's even going forward at this.
I would like to finish up by saying that, all of our local officials at the county, city, township, state level, everybody has always been on board with this. Everybody has been very supportive of this. And that's not the problem. The problem is it's just, it has to be addressed at that next level up. That's the only way that the US EPA is going to, and the US Department of Justice is going to, it's the only thing that's going to get their attention, is if it's federal.
Maybe we invite them, as we did, where was it, at Northwestern High School, where you hosted a community-wide meeting. EPA seemed to be impressed with that turnout and the tenor of that crowd and all the speakers. I just think we ought to re-examine what we're doing. And but again, if you would pursue that at the staff level, and putting together a coalition of organizations in this area, including our elected officials and others, maybe that's a place to reignite the light at this point.
Certainly, commissioners, I can take the lead on that and organize that on behalf of the commission.
You will work with our health commissioner as well
Yes.
and our county commissioners?
I also. That'd be hard. I hope, I wouldn't. Need to.
I certainly
That's a
hope
great
so,
idea.
because I'm starting to wear out. She can go on forever. She's the Energizer Bunny.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ricketts, and Ms. Marilyn's always a pleasure, and Charlie. Are there additional comments from our commissioners before we wrap up? And I know Commissioner Estroff has a proclamation to read. You want to read that before we do the adjournment?
Yes, please. You know, we've been through an incredible time period as a community. And many people stepped up to address the challenges being faced by Springfield and Clark County. But in the view of many that I talk with, no organization stepped up quite as tall as the Clark County Combined Health District. And I have a proclamation that I would like to read for Commissioner Patterson and his staff who joined us this evening.
Our board vice president.
Okay. Whereas in the face of unprecedented challenges these past 16 months, the Clark County Combined Health District staff members have risen to the moment during a worldwide pandemic, bringing strength, leadership, and expertise at a time when citizens were scared and unsure of a new disease that could and would prove deadly at any given moment. And whereas Health Commissioner Charles Patterson and his capable staff stepped up and became expert on the COVID-19 coronavirus that quickly took over the entire world. During this time, they provided guidance to medical professionals, businesses, and citizens on how to protect themselves and others for the best possible outcome. And whereas the health district staff established COVID-19 testing centers, distributed personal protection kits, and implemented an impressive countywide vaccination center where staff and volunteers vaccinated our residents as soon as the vaccine was made available. And whereas on May 14th, 2021, the Public Health Accreditation Board awarded the Clark County Combined Health District national accreditation for their commitment to accountability, communications, transparency, and the capacity to deliver essential public health services during a time when these efforts were needed most. Now, therefore, I, Warren Copeland, Mayor of the City of Springfield, President of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim today, July 20th, 2021, as Clark County Combined Health District Staff Appreciation Day, and urge all citizens of Springfield to recognize the efforts of the health district staff who continue to provide excellent service to all residents of Clark County. Congratulations. How do we want to get a camera shot or? Yeah.
Can we adjourn and do the add-ons before we do the
That'd be
camera shot?
fine, yeah.
That way you can, thank you.
So moved.
Second?
Wait a minute, we have add-ons.
Oh,
Oh, you were gonna do
sorry.
that?
Yes, Commissioner. So we have two updates to two ordinances. 187-21 was updated to reflect the first date of observance. And then 181-21 updated to reflect correct address for Motorola Solutions. And then an emergency resolution reappointing Harry M. Brown III to the Civil Service Commission and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, city manager. Okay, now we have a motion to adjourn.
And a
We have a
second.
second. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. So,
If we could have all the commissioners over here and we'll get pictures with
okay,
health
thank you.
department staff. What's that?
Commission meeting will start in a few minutes.
We can get it done. And so well, I got they're embedded in my mind.
Fortunately, they're not only embedded in my mind, but they're on my computer.
We can fix that.
Guess we'll go over here. Everybody seems to be congregating this way. What's that?
I'm so glad you fired up. I am so glad you're here.
Did you see this? Table skirting?
Hi, good to see you. Well deserved.
How you doing? You? Doing all right.
Oh, we gotta get them all back up here, right?
Yeah. Herding cats.
We can spike started. You already did.
It started.
I love it. Let's get it. Hey. Hey, there is no price.
No,
It's,
it can't be.
there is none.
No.
Now, Mark down there, he'd argue that with us.
Guys ready?
Oh, wait a minute, you sitting clear over there? Okay. They've split the team tonight.
Okay, thank you. Are you ready, Dave? Yeah, it's fine.
Perfectly fair.
We are at 7. If that's okay with you. This one, the second reading.
Extra one. Yep.
It looks good. Sure, I'll take it.
Dave was getting his water, I don't know.
Thank
Thank you, everyone. The Tuesday, July the 20th, meeting of the Springfield City Commission is called to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton,
Here.
Dr. Estra,
Here?
Mr. O'Neill,
Here.
Mr. Rue,
Here.
Mr. Copeland.
Thank you. Will you all please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? Our loving Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening asking for your blessings and help as we gather together. We pray for guidance in the matters on our agenda and ask that you would clearly show us how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiasm. Give us the desire to find ways to excel in our work. Help us to work together and encourage each other to excellence. We ask that you bless our city commission meeting and give us grace that we may effectively do our part as public servants. To you be the glory. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Rue? Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes. Thank you. Clerk, will you proceed with the reading of the first readings of the ordinance by title only?
Amending ordinance number 9190, passed March 12, 1991, and commonly known as the codified ordinances of the city of Springfield, Ohio, by repealing and replacing existing section 185.02 with an amended section 185.02 titled Holidays. Authorizing the city manager to enter into an employment incentive agreement with Desert Time of Ohio Incorporated to incentivize establishing a retail storefront located at 30 North Fountain Avenue to create employment in the city, and authorizing the city manager, finance director, and law director to do all things necessary to implement the said employment incentive agreement. Authorizing the acceptance of a 2021-2022 drug use prevention grant in an amount up to $41,436.71 from the Ohio Attorney General's office to be used for funding up to 4 officers to teach drug use prevention education in the public schools, and authorizing the city manager, finance director, and chief of police to perform all acts and execute all documents they consider necessary to fulfill the city's obligations under said grant and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a utility transfer agreement with the Board of County Commissioners of Clark County, Ohio, to transfer the ownership of certain utility districts.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from our city commissioners?
Item 187-21, we're updating, is that because of the new federal Juneteenth holiday, or what's the reason for the update?
Yes, Commissioners, this recognizes and acknowledges the Juneteenth holiday, which was adopted June 17th by the federal government as a new national holiday. And so this adds it in for future years, but also retroactive to June 18th of 2021, which was the day it was observed. And
Very good, thank you. I also wanted to comment on item 189-21. As former superintendent of schools, not only do the officers from the Springfield Police Division do a great job of working with our students, it's a two-way street, and it gives, very frankly, many students in our community an opportunity to work positively with members of the Springfield Police Division and establish some early acquaintances. That's good for our community, good for the Springfield Police Division, and good for the Springfield City School District. So I will be supporting strongly item 189-21. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the commissioners? Are there any comments from the audience? Thank you. If not, clerk, will you proceed with second readings, please?
Vacating Maryland Avenue from Skyline Lane East to the dead end, being approximately 150 feet.
Move to adopt.
Second?
Thank you. Been moved in a second. So are there any questions from the commissioners on this one? Are there any questions from the audience? Thank you.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton.
Yes.
Vacating the first alley east of Nagley Street from the first alley north of Fulton Avenue to the intersecting east-west alley.
Move to adopt.
Second?
It's been moved and second. Are there any questions from the commissioners?
No.
Questions from the audience? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move that item number 150-21 be moved to an emergency ordinance this evening because of the time frame that it's going to take to get to the Board of Zoning Appeals for this particular situation, because this is not this gentleman's last stop. And also the time frame when the weather will start to fly, when they're going to start construction. 14 days means a lot. So if there's no objections, I make a motion that we move this to an emergency ordinance.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Clerk, could you call the roll, please? That this be moved to an emergency ordinance?
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton.
Yes.
And then do we have a motion, a second motion then to adopt this, or would that suffice?
I move that we adopt this as an emergency ordinance this evening. And I need a second.
Second?
So can I get a ruling from our law director on this one?
Not sure whether we needed a second motion.
Okay. So you want to call the roll on this one?
So, sorry, I don't mean to keep beating this, but, so Mr. O'Neill
Neil moved.
moved,
And I second.
Okay.
Mr. Rue, Mr. O'Neill.
Yes.
Dr. Estrop.
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amending ordinance number 9190 passed March 12, 1991, and commonly known as the codified ordinances of the city of Springfield, Ohio, by amending section 911.02 service charge rate, section 911.04 bulk water purchases, section 917.02 service charge rate, section 917.11 septage discharge fees, and repealing existing sections 911.02, 911.04, 917.02, and 917.11.
Move to adopt.
Second?
Thank you. It's been moved and second. Are there questions from the commissioners?
I was wondering if Mr. Moore might review again what we're doing here. I know you did it at the last meeting, Chris, but I think it bears repeating. Or Mark, I think perhaps you did it.
Yeah, I think I might have, Commissioner, and I'd be happy to do it again this evening. What is before you this evening is a rate increase for both water and sewer rate for the next 3 years, 2% in each of those utilities on January 1, 2022, 23, and 24. We felt there was a necessity to have this rate increase because of what we're experiencing in the way of inflation. Many of our chemicals and other commodities are increasing rather rapidly. You have before you ferric sulfate on the agenda this evening, and it's up over 4%. And even in the last 2 weeks, we've seen in the business news the return of inflation, and it seems to be and appears to be a prolonged bout of it. I would suggest that we don't want to get ourselves in a position where we have to come back to the citizens of Springfield and bring a significant rate increase to them. We'd rather be able to stagger it over the next 3 years in smalling. So that's the reason for proposing this legislation.
I find that makes a lot more sense to take smaller bites of this apple. You know, it just dawned on me as I was sitting here listening to what you had to say. Some of the costs of operating our water and wastewater treatment plant is a function of U.S. EPA mandates.
That is correct.
So here we sit wondering how we're gonna pay for US EPA mandate locally. Well, they sit on their hands in Washington and do nothing about keeping our water safe. Now, there's just a wee bit of irony in all of that, and maybe we ought to remind them of that. Thank you. I feel
Thank you,
better.
Commissioners. Are there any other comments from the
I'm calling
commissioners?
Virginia. The guy's out of control. I'm calling his wife.
Okay, if not, clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Would you
Oh, I'm
like to
sorry.
ask for?
Comments from the audience? Sorry about that. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Dr. Estra,
Yes,
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
amending ordinance number 9190 passed March 12, 1991, and commonly known as the codified ordinances of the city of Springfield, Ohio, by amending section 918.04, stormwater utility service charges, ESU rates, and repealing existing section 918.04.
so moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Are there comments from the commissioners? I think I got all worked up with you,
I
Commissioner
did have a
Estra.
couple of comments on this. I am in total agreement with the stormwater rate, okay? I didn't like them when we first put them on years ago, but they totally make sense. However, when we have situations where private entities are having to deal with stormwater runoff, and we're not helping them do this, that's not the right thing to do. And I made that clear to our city manager as well as our director of finance. I'm gonna support this, but I feel where we have a problem that we know we have, we need to address it and try to bring it into the fold as quickly as we can. Because what's happening in some of our bigger condominium associations is not gonna be an isolated situation. They're all gonna have them at some point. And I know that EPA makes changes as years go by and it wasn't in effect and that's why it's not covered. But that doesn't make those people feel any better when they have to fork out $60,000 and $75,000 to get rid of their stormwater runoff, when they're paying so much per month to us to take care of their stormwater runoff. So that's the only comment I wanted to make about it, but we just need to address that in addition to this increase.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the audience? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Dr. Estra,
Yes,
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
authorizing the exercise of the city's option to renew the contract with Chemical Services Incorporated for the purchase of liquid ferric sulfate 60% for use by the city's water treatment plant for an amount not to exceed $150,300.
so moved.
Second.
Been moved in second. Are there any comments from the commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estra,
Yes,
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
authorizing the purchase of one 2022 Ford Super Duty F-550 from National Auto Fleet Group for an amount not to exceed $171,612.78 through Sourcewell pursuant to the Sourcewell Contract Purchasing Cooperative Program in accordance with the provisions of Section 9.48 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Move to adopt.
second.
Been moved in second. Are there comments from the commissioners?
Commissioner. I was at a community gathering Monday night, and the question came up, are we purchasing all of the possible vehicles we can locally from Navistar? And I said, I always ask the question, so I'm asking the question on this case, and instead of purchasing a Ford, and again, there's no Ford dealership, but we're purchasing it through the state contract, could we have purchased a Navistar product rather than a Ford product?
This is one of those cases where we could not have. We obviously always make an effort to do that.
Yeah.
This truck was very critical. The last truck and the upfitting was not compatible, and it unfortunately caught fire in the middle of Beckel Avenue and melted itself to the road. So this is the replacement, and we were very specific about exactly what we wanted for compatibility.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Are there other questions from the commissioners? Are there questions from the audience? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes?
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Authorizing the purchase of 30 WatchGuard video in-car cameras from Motorola Solutions Incorporated for an amount not to exceed $192,350 through Sourcewell pursuant to the Sourcewell Contract Purchasing Cooperative Program in accordance with the provisions of Section 9.48 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Move to adopt.
Second?
Moved in second. Are there questions from the commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes?
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an employment incentive agreement with Storm Mixed Martial Arts to incentivize establishing a mixed martial arts training and instruction studio at 105 North Thompson Avenue to create employment in the city, and authorizing the city manager, finance director, and law director to do all things necessary to implement the said employment incentive agreement.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions from the commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, please call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes?
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Providing for supplemental appropriations within various funds and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second?
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions from the commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes?
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Confirming and approving the increase of a purchase order in an amount not to exceed $2,500 for a total cost not to exceed $107,495 for the purchase of one service body and hydraulic crane from Ace Truck Body and declaring it an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second?
Been moved in second. Are there any questions from the commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes?
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Authorizing the purchase of 4 Stryker Power Pro XT cots with mounting and loading systems from Stryker for an amount not to exceed $164,625.84 pursuant to the Savick Buying Group Purchasing Cooperative Program in accordance with the provisions of Section 9.48 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions from the commissioners?
Are these the cots that go in our mobile vans, in our emergency vehicle?
Yes, they go into our ambulances and they're, make it a lot easier, and Brian can talk about it as well, but they make it a lot easier on the patient as far as the smooth of getting loaded into the back of the ambulance, but also for our men and women that serve as firefighters, it takes that strain and tear and wear off of their bodies as well. Brian?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to address you this evening. I would like to point out first and foremost that this is the result of a gift from the Calcaterra family. They donated approximately $700,000 to the fire division, and we've decided to use this to get some of the latest technology to make it safer for both the citizens of Springfield and our EMS providers as we load patients into the back of the ambulance. These power lift cots and load systems make it safer for everybody. It's super nice to have philanthropic people in the community to come forward and help us meet our mission of providing great service to our citizens in the safest way possible. So,
And the family again, Chief,
the Calcaterra family.
our thanks to the Calcaterra family, and thanks to the men and women of the fire division who do such a great job. Hopefully this will let them do their job even better.
Thank you.
Are there other questions from the commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, please call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes?
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 1 to the contract between the city and Param Electric Incorporated for the CLA Springfield North Burnett Columbus Signal Project, PID number 110976, rebid, to decrease in a contract in an amount not to exceed $5,135.94 for a total amount not to exceed $82,431.06, authorizing the city manager to execute said change order number 1 and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved in second. Are there any questions from the commissioners?
And this is a decrease in. the
Quick before they change their
Quick,
mind.
yeah, call the vote.
Are there any questions from the audience? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Rue? Dr. Estrap?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 3 to the contract between the city and Majors Enterprises Incorporated for the Broadway reconstruction project to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $2,272.50 for a total amount not to exceed $1,567.91, and to extend the contract completion date to June 25th, 2021, authorizing the city manager to execute said change order number 3 and declaring it an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved in second. Are there any questions from the commissioners? I just wanted to ask, is this a completed project?
I'll ask Chris Moore, our service director.
Thank you.
They have, they've completed all of the punch list work, but there is still some warranty work they'll need to come back and do. Some areas where the grass seed has not taken like it should.
But other than that, it's completed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing the grass seed up. There's been several concerns about how it was left there by the contractor, so I know you're all over that, but I appreciate your effort in that, but it is a concern. It doesn't look great, so hopefully they do fix it.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the audience? Clerk, please call the roll.
Dr. Estrap?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 1 to the contract with Carpenter Marty Transportation Incorporated for the Columbia Street Streetscape Enhancement Project to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $12,191.16 for a total amount not to exceed $101,128.13 and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Are there questions from the commissioners? From the audience? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrap?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Extending support from the City Commission of the City of Springfield, Ohio, to the Small Business Development Center, Springfield, for the Community Navigator Pilot Program to assist and support underserved business community entrepreneurs in the City of Springfield, Ohio, and declaring it an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there questions or comments from the commissioners?
I was wondering if we might hear a little more about this program. I know Rob's here.
Absolutely. Thank you, commissioners. It is my pleasure to tell you a little bit about the Community Navigators pilot program that we are thick into writing a grant application right now in cooperation with the City of Springfield. This to me is a very, very exciting opportunity for the city. If we win this grant, we are looking at $1 million coming into the SBDC so that we can turn around and create 10 new jobs here in Springfield. One of which will be at SBDC, then the other 9 at grassroots organizations in and around Springfield. And those jobs, their sole purpose then is to go create more jobs by basically connecting socially and economically disadvantaged business owners with the resources that are out there to help them, but they don't realize that, or maybe they don't trust that it's for them, or that they'll be treated with respect and dignity. Though I can promise you that they will, at least at SBDC. And so they are navigators in the truest sense of the word. They point people to the resources that can help them grow and sustain their business, become more legitimate, and create jobs in the future. Happy to answer any specific questions about the grant. We have not received it. We're only applying for it right now.
Wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Rob from the other commissioners? I do have a question. What is the deadlines for this?
The grant application is due to the Small Business Administration on Friday at the end of the day.
Thank you.
Rob, I have one question. If you should fail to get this, is this important enough to you consider to put it in your budget for next year to ask for money to do something like this?
I think it's really important. The amount that we were talking about would be 10 times our typical budget that we receive from the city. I'm happy to ask for 10 times more.
Well, you know what? If it's so important, never hesitate to ask.
I appreciate that. To me, this has opened up doors with partners that we wanted and needed to partner with and have not been in the same room. And so regardless of whether we get this, my plan is to work with all these nonprofit leaders because they are the boots on the ground. They have the relationships. They're embedded in the communities that we are having a tougher time trying to reach. So good will come out of this.
You brought up a good point. So if you get the grant this time and we hire the people you're talking about hiring, come next year, how are they paid for?
It's a 2-year grant.
2-year grant.
2-year grant, and it's a pilot program. So hopefully the program works and they continue funding after that. But if it's not, I would hope we find a new way to fund them if it's working well.
Are there any other comments from the commissioners, from the audience? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Reappointing Harry M. Brown III to the Civil Service Commission and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any comments or questions from the commissioners? From the audience? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes. Are there other items?
I just wanted to thank Commissioner Taylor for coming this evening to this important meeting. He was very instrumental through the entire program since he's been in, not only in public office, since he was just the manager of his business. He has a lot of good insight as to how big-time government works and what may be able to be done and how you may be able to go about doing it. So again, his experience is invaluable and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the commissioners? If not, I have a comment. I wanted to thank the Golden Era Wildcat Roundup Alumni Association Class of 1952 and Mr. Jim Ingledew. And they gave me this award at a very nice luncheon on yesterday. And it reads, presented to Joyce Chilton, Assistant Mayor, Springfield, Ohio. Retirement date, December 31st, 2021. We're not there yet, but they didn't know if they would be meeting before that. It says, thank you for your many years of loyalty and community service. Congratulations upon your retirement. May the Lord bless you with good retirement health, retirement joy, and retirement peace. Live each day going forward with an attitude of gratitude. And that's from the Golden Era Wildcat Roundup Association Class of 1952. And they are still meeting. So thank you all. And I will pass this around.
Good for you, Joyce.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments from the audience? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.